Going to church does not make you a Christian. Welcome to the Church Dropout podcast. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Wherever you're listening to this podcast at, please like, rate, subscribe. We'd highly appreciate it. And also hit the bell for notifications so you know when we drop videos. I want to review a quick video of John Piper being asked a question about people who walk away from the church, specifically those who have been hurt, who end up walking away from the church. This is an old clip. I believe this was recorded around the time of Mark Driscoll's fall. Mark Driscoll was a popular pastor in the Reformed movement who had some spiritual abuse taking place in his church. They put him on discipline, and then he resigned before the discipline process was over. And, it ended up hurting a lot of people. And a lot of people were affected by his behavior. And so some people ended up walking away from church, not necessarily from Jesus, but ended up walking away from the church. Now, John Piper's being asked this question, and I want to listen to his response, and then I'll have some comments at the end. Now, remember also, this is a short clip. The full conversation, I believe, could still be found online. Not that it helps anything, but I just want to make some comments on this. I believe he's wrong. I want to make some comments on this particular clip. So here we go.
Pastor John, I'm not walking away from Jesus, but I'm done with the church. Can't trust the leadership, held this guy in high esteem. So I'm not going to walk away from Jesus, but I'm done with the organized aspect of church.
If you do that, you're walking away from Jesus.
Yeah,
Here's the reason. To say that I love Jesus, but I don't submit to his word is a lie. He who loves me will keep my words. Jesus founded the church. I didn't. Paul didn't. Jesus founded the church.
All right, so that's the end of the clip. And like I said, I just want to respond to it. There's some things there that I think John Piper says that, I highly disagree with in terms of, the outcome or where he lands on this particular position. The first thing I want to say is I think it's really interesting that the way the question was posed and the parts that he didn't answer. And again, I know this is a partial clip, but, he didn't even address the fact that people are hurt. People were hurt by the behavior of an individual, and that's why they were actually walking away. He doesn't even address that. He immediately leans in, and really, honestly, I feel like he startled the guy, but he leans in and he says, listen, if you walk away from the church, you're walking away from Jesus. Now, I think he's wrong. And this is surprising because John Piper is a very learned individual. He is a scholar to some degree. He understands the scriptures, pastor for a very long time, and that means nothing. People could still get things wrong. However, I do think John Piper understands the difference between the church as an institution and the church as God's people. And I think here he makes the mistake that all people or a lot of Christians make when they have arguments with individuals who don't go to church is that somehow we, kind of mesh the two things together, that the physical church or going to a physical building or uniting with Christians in a physical way equals the church. So if you walk away from that, then you are walking away from the church. And he also alludes to this idea that not going to church means that you're being disobedient, that you're not being obedient to Christ if you don't go to church. And again, I think he's wrong. The scripture does have a mandate for all Christians to be in fellowship with one another. That is in part how Christ has saved us. He didn't save us just as individuals. He saved us into a family, into a community, and we're supposed to one another. We're supposed to love one another as Christ has loved us. In order to do that, we need to be in fellowship with one another. So I would say if a person is forsaking fellowship with other believers, doesn't have deep fellowship with other believers, then yes, I think that there is disobedience, especially if they're refusing to do so. But to say a person is being disobedient because they are not in fellowship with a local congregation and attending a church, and somehow that means that they are not a Christian, to me, that's a problem. Going to church does not make you a Christian any more or any less than not going to church makes you not a Christian. Jesus makes you Christian by believing in him and his works, his death, burial, and resurrection by grace through faith alone makes you Christian. That's how we become born again. It is not by attending a church. There are plenty of people who are present in the pews every Sunday, but are not connected to Jesus. They're connected with the church, but they're not connected with Christ. And so we really need to separate these two and start having a real conversation about what church is and what it means to be in true fellowship so that people can fulfill that obligation that the scripture says to one another in a very real and biblical way. And so, anyway, that's it. Love to hear your thoughts on this. Just a quick observation from this actual video. Thank you so much for tuning into the Church Dropout podcast, and I will talk to you soon. God bless you.